Chosen one, your life did not become difficult because something went wrong. It became difficult because something woke up. The moment your calling began to reveal itself, the atmosphere of your life shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically. It started as a quiet knowing, a subtle pull, a whisper in the soul that you could no longer ignore. That was the moment the spiritual weight of your purpose began to take shape and everything around you reacted. People think struggle is a sign of failure, but in your case, it was evidence of activation. The pressure didn't begin when you were weak or unprepared. It began when heaven recognized that you were ready to be shaped. Before your calling awakened, life may have felt simpler, lighter, more predictable. But the moment your spirit began to align with your true assignment, your life stopped operating on the same level as before. Old environments that once felt comfortable started to feel too small. Conversations you used to enjoy began to feel shallow. Relationships that once felt familiar started to feel heavy. You didn't change overnight, but your alignment did. This is the moment most people misinterpret as something falling apart. But nothing was falling apart. Everything was shifting into place. Your calling demanded more of you. More strength, more clarity, more courage, more awareness. The challenges that showed up were not sent to break you. They were sent to build the version of you that your destiny requires. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared. The resistance you felt wasn't rejection. It was redirection. Your spirit outgrew your past faster than your life could rearrange itself, and that created friction. But friction is the proof of movement, and movement is the proof of transformation. Your calling didn't just change your path, it changed you, and that was the beginning of everything. Chosen one, your isolation was never a coincidence. You did not withdraw from people because you lost interest in life. You were being recalibrated. When a calling is placed on someone's life, God removes them from the noise long before he reveals the assignment publicly. Your solitude was not punishment, it was preparation. There were seasons where you felt distant from everyone, even from people you cared about. You tried to explain it, but how do you explain a transformation happening in a place no one else can see? The shift was internal before it ever became external. Your spirit was rearranging itself long before your circumstances caught up. In isolation, your perception sharpened, your emotions deepened, your intuition became your compass. You learned to sit with thoughts most people avoid. You learned to feel what others run from. You learned to listen to silence until it spoke. This was spiritual training. Most people require noise, validation, and constant companionship to feel secure. But your path demanded that you learn to stand alone, not out of coldness, but because your assignment requires a level of clarity that cannot be influenced by opinions, expectations, or the emotional static of others. In your quiet seasons, God was removing distractions that could distort your direction. People who were attached to the old version of you had to fade. Environments that fed comfort instead of growth had to dissolve. Relationships that were rooted in dependency rather than purpose had to release. You didn't lose anyone. You were released from what could not go with you. And in the quiet, you began to recognize your own voice, your own strength, your own truth. You began to see yourself not through the lens of who the world told you to be, but through the clarity of who you were designed to be. Isolation didn't break you. It built you. It taught you how to hear God without echoes, how to know yourself without applause, how to walk forward without being led by fear. You were alone, so you could become aligned. Chosen one. The battles you walked through were never really about circumstances. They were about your identity. The opposition did not come to destroy what you were doing. It came to challenge who you believed you were. Because once a chosen one remembers themselves, truly remembers, they become unshakable. There were seasons where you questioned everything about yourself, your worth, your purpose, even your voice. Not because you lacked strength, but because the pressure you were under was designed to reveal what could not be taken from you. Diamond is not born diamond. It becomes diamond under weight, under heat, under intensity. So did you. You were placed in situations that pressed on your heart, your confidence, your faith, your identity, because the parts of you that were untested could not be trusted to carry the magnitude of your calling. You had to see what was real in you. You had to learn what was yours versus what was borrowed from others. The heartbreaks cracked your surface so your authenticity could breathe. The betrayals stripped away illusions so your vision could sharpen. The setbacks forced you inward so your spirit could rise. You didn't lose yourself in the chaos. You found yourself inside it. You came to understand that your sensitivity is not weakness, it is discernment. Your compassion is not vulnerability, it is spiritual intelligence. Your intuition is not overthinking, it is divine navigation. These were never flaws. They were proof of your calling. Pressure did not create your identity, it exposed it. It revealed the resilience beneath your wounds. It uncovered the wisdom hiding beneath your silence. It awakened the knowing you carried long before language could explain it. So now when the world looks at you, they see the strength, they see the clarity, they see the authority. But they do not understand the refinement required to get here. You didn't just survive pressure, you integrated it. You learned how to remain whole while being broken open, how to remain compassionate while being tested, how to remain true while being misunderstood. This is identity that cannot be stolen, not by circumstance, not by disappointment, not by fear. This is identity refined, unshakable, clear, fully awakened. Chosen one, what others expected to destroy you only pushed you into evolution. You were never designed to collapse under pressure. Your spirit was engineered to adapt, rise and transform. This is what separates you. Most people experience hardship and become smaller. They shut down, close off, and harden their hearts to protect what remains. But when life pressed against you, something different happened. The pressure didn't crush you, it activated you. Every struggle pulled forward another layer of strength you didn't know you had. Every setback sharpened your awareness. Every disappointment deepened your understanding. When others saw defeat, heaven saw development. You didn't just make it through difficult seasons, you came out of them different. More awake, more grounded, more aware of who you are and who you're not. You began to recognize the power of your capacity not just to endure, but to evolve. And that is what darkness fears most about you, because you don't return to who you were before the struggle. You emerge as someone wiser, stronger, clearer, and more spiritually aligned. The attempts to break you didn't weaken your foundation, they revealed it. They revealed that your strength is not loud, but steady, not aggressive, but enduring, not performative, but rooted. Your growth is unpredictable to those who tried to control your outcome, because every time they thought they understood you, you became someone more refined than before. You grew in directions no one anticipated. This is why certain people couldn't remain close. They were expecting you to stay broken. They were waiting for your collapse. They were comfortable with your pain, but they weren't prepared for your resurrection. But you resurrected anyway, not because it was easy, not because you weren't wounded, but because something in you refused to stop becoming. You were not built to break. You were built to rise through the breaking. Your transformation is your testimony. Your evolution is your evidence. Your ability to turn pain into growth is your divine signature. And the world has no defense against a soul that knows how to transform itself from within. Chosen one, there came a moment when the environments you once called home began to feel too small. Not physically, but spiritually. What once felt familiar started to feel restrictive, and what once felt safe began to feel suffocating. This was not because the place changed, but because you did. Growth always creates pressure in spaces that were never designed to contain your next level. You tried to stay. You tried to shrink. You tried to fit yourself back into patterns, conversations, and dynamics that used to feel natural, but your spirit kept rejecting what your mind was trying to rationalize. The discomfort you felt wasn't confusion. It was alignment. Your soul was signaling that you could no longer eat from tables that starved your purpose. You could no longer sit quietly in rooms where your spirit needed to breathe. You could no longer pretend that familiar meant healthy. This was the beginning of your departure, not a dramatic exit, not a sudden disappearance, but a gradual, undeniable internal shift. You stopped relating the same way. You stopped tolerating what drained you. You stopped explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. And the more you grew, the more the environment around you reacted. Some people became distant. Some became uncomfortable. Some became critical, not because you did anything wrong, but because your expansion exposed their stagnation. They were comfortable with the version of you who needed them, who questioned yourself, who stayed small to keep the peace. But when your spirit began to stretch, you no longer fit the role they expected you to play. This is where most people turn back. But you didn't. You allowed the discomfort to guide you. You allowed the unfamiliar to become your new foundation. You allowed yourself to detach without resentment, without bitterness, without needing closure from those who never understood your elevation. You did not abandon your past. You simply refused to live there. You outgrew the environments that could no longer feed your evolution. And growth, real growth, always requires leaving something behind. Chosen one, you have always seen more than what was visible. While others listened to words, you listened to energy. While others focused on appearances, you focused on intentions. This is not a skill you learned. It is something that came wired into your spirit. Your discernment is the reason certain people felt uncomfortable around you. They could not hide behind charm, performance, reputation, or carefully crafted masks. You don't respond to who someone claims to be, you respond to who they are. Your spirit recognizes truth before your mind has the language to explain it. There were times you doubted this ability, times you tried to override your instincts to be fair, to avoid conflict, to make excuses for people. But every time you ignored your intuition, you paid for it. That was not coincidence. That was training. Your discernment had to be sharpened through experience. This is why God allowed you to encounter people who said all the right things but carried the wrong energy. Friendships built on convenience, not loyalty. Relationships that mirrored your wounds, but not your destiny. These weren't failures. They were lessons in perception. Over time, you stopped needing explanations. You stopped waiting for proof. You learned to trust the quiet shifts in your body, the sudden uneasiness, the internal alerts that spoke without sound. Your intuition has never lied to you. And now, you don't ignore it. This is one of the greatest advantages of your calling. You don't walk blindly. Your discernment protects your peace. Your awareness protects your energy. Your insight protects your purpose. People may not understand how you know what you know, but that understanding is not required. Your path doesn't depend on their agreement. It depends on your alignment. You were never meant to navigate life through logic alone. You were designed to navigate through spirit. And now that you trust your discernment, you are no longer led by fear, confusion, or deception. You move with clarity. You move with confidence. You move with truth. Chosen one, if this message has been confirming what your spirit already knew, don't scroll past it. This is your sign to stay connected to the voice guiding your elevation. Take a moment and comment, "I trust my discernment." Lua, not for the algorithm, but as a declaration that your spirit leads now. Like this message, share it, subscribe, and continue this journey with us. Your awareness is your gift. Your clarity is your protection. Your path is unfolding. Chosen one, the separations you experienced were not random. They were divine interventions disguised as loss. The people who fell away from your life did not leave because you lacked love, loyalty, or value. They left because your future was too expansive for the relationships that were built around your past. Your spirit began to rise, and everything that could not rise with you had to release. At first, it hurt. You questioned yourself. You wondered if you were too much, too deep, too intensely, too different. But what you were really feeling was the weight of transition, the tearing away of connections that were never meant to carry the full weight of your purpose. God didn't remove people to empty your life. He removed them to clear your path. Some people were attached to who you used to be. They were connected to your wounds, not your healing. They were loyal to your silence, not your voice. They were comfortable with your brokenness, but unprepared for your power. Their exit was not betrayal. It was alignment, because if they had stayed, you would have lowered yourself to make them comfortable. You would have questioned your growth to protect their ego. You would have dimmed your light to prevent their insecurity. Your destiny could not afford that. So the separation came. Through distance, through conflict, through silence, through revelation. And even though you felt the loss, your soul also felt something else, relief. Relief in knowing you no longer had to hold conversations that drained you. Relief in no longer filtering your authenticity. Relief in no longer negotiating your worth in spaces that could not recognize it. This was not abandonment. It was graduation. You didn't outgrow people because you became better than them. You outgrew them because your spirit began moving toward purpose. Separation is sacred. It is how God protects destiny. You were not left alone. You were set apart. And now your future has room to unfold. People who said all the right things but carried the wrong energy. Friendships built on convenience, not loyalty. Relationships that mirrored your wounds but not your destiny. These weren't failures. They were lessons in perception. Over time, you stopped needing explanations. You stopped waiting for proof. You learned to trust the quiet shifts in your body, the sudden uneasiness, the internal alerts that spoke without sound. Your intuition has never lied to you, and now you don't ignore it. This is one of the greatest advantages of your calling. You don't walk blindly. Your discernment protects your peace. Your awareness protects your energy. Your insight protects your purpose. People may not understand how you know what you know, but that understanding is not required. Your path doesn't depend on their agreement. It depends on your alignment. You were never meant to navigate life through logic alone. You were designed to navigate through spirit. And now that you trust your discernment, you are no longer led by fear, confusion, or deception. You move with clarity. You move with confidence. You move with truth. Chosen one. Resilience was not something you learned from books, advice, or inspiration. It was something life demanded from you before you even knew how to spell the word. You were placed in situations where breaking down was understandable, where quitting would have been justified, where surrendering would have seemed logical, and yet something in you refused to collapse. Not because you weren't tired, not because you didn't hurt, but because your spirit understood something your mind hadn't caught up to yet. Your story wasn't supposed to end there. Life didn't give you easy lessons. It didn't give you gentle warnings. It sent you straight into the kind of experiences that force a soul to either rise or disappear. You rose. Again, and again, and again. Your resilience wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It didn't need an audience. It showed itself in the quiet moments when you got out of bed after crying the night before. When you kept walking, even when you had no idea where the path was leading. When you continued to give love even after being hurt. When you continued to hope even with no evidence things would change. That is resilience, the decision to keep becoming. Every hardship you endured strengthened your internal core. Every loss refined your emotional depth. Every setback sharpened your perspective. You didn't just survive storms. You learned how to navigate through them. You learned how to breathe underwater. And now, resilience is no longer something you reach for in emergencies. It is a part of your identity. You move differently because of what you've survived. You speak differently because of what you've overcome. You stand differently because you know the ground you rebuilt yourself on. People see your strength and think it appeared overnight. But strength is never sudden. Strength is accumulated survival. Your resilience is not a reaction anymore. It is your foundation. And because of that, nothing you face now has the power to undo you. Chosen one, your growth did not create conflict, it revealed it. The moment you started aligning with your calling, some people in your life began to shift. They became distant, defensive, or strangely competitive. And it wasn't because you changed in a harmful way. It was because your elevation quietly exposed what they were avoiding within themselves. You didn't need to speak a word. Your becoming did the speaking. Your clarity exposed their confusion. Your healing exposed their avoidance. Your confidence exposed their insecurity. Some people admired your potential as long as it remained unrealized. They were comfortable when you doubted yourself. They were supportive when you played small. They were warm when your light was dim enough not to challenge theirs. But the moment you began to stand in your truth, to choose yourself, to rise your presence, stopped being familiar comfort and started being a mirror. Not everyone is ready to face themselves. Your growth reminded them of the dreams they abandoned, the courage they never activated, the healing they postponed, the strength they never claimed. Rather than confronting their own stagnation, it was easier for them to resent your transformation, so they distanced themselves. They misinterpreted you. They minimized your progress. They painted you as changed, in a negative way. But understand this clearly. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. You were not meant to dim your light to make others feel safe in their shadows. You were not meant to apologize for evolving. You were not meant to shrink your spirit for the comfort of anyone. Your calling is meant to awaken, not to be hidden. And those who are meant to walk with you will be inspired by your growth, not intimidated by it. They will rise with you, not resist you. They will celebrate your expansion, not fear it. Your calling did not push people away. It simply revealed who was never meant to stay. Chosen one. One of the greatest shifts in your journey was learning how to stay unmoved in situations designed to provoke you. There was a time when other people's words, actions, or disrespect would have triggered a reaction. But now, you understand something deeper. Not every battle requires your energy. Not every invitation to conflict deserves your presence. Not every accusation needs your response. This is spiritual neutrality. It is not silence from fear, it is silence from power. There are forces in this world that don't need to defeat you to derail you, they only need to distract you. They try to pull you into emotional conflict, so you expend your energy defending yourself instead of becoming yourself. But you learned that reacting gives away power. You learned that explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you is wasted breath. You learned that protecting your peace is more important than proving your point. Your restraint became your strategy. The old you might have argued, justified, defended, or tried to fix how others saw you. The evolved you knows that truth does not need to shout. Your growth is loud enough. Your peace is evidence enough. Your alignment is proof enough. And because of that, you became unreachable to chaos. People tried to trigger you, and you did not move. They tried to provoke you, and you remained calm. They tried to pull you back into the version of yourself they once controlled, and you did not return. This is mastery, not the absence of emotion, but the ability to choose how and when to move. Your stillness is not emptiness. It is control. Your silence is not weakness. It is strategy. Your peace is not passive. It is power. You no longer let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. You no longer trade your destiny for the satisfaction of being right. You know who you are, and that is enough. Chosen one, the pain you carried was never meant to break you, it was meant to reveal you. Every wound, every heartbreak, every silent night where your soul felt too heavy to hold was not a consequence of failure. It was a sacred initiation. Your suffering was not random. It was encoded instruction. Pain was the language your spirit used to learn what your mind was not ready to understand. There are some forms of wisdom that cannot be taught through comfort. Some levels of compassion that can only be formed when your heart has been shattered and rebuilt with intention. Some forms of discernment that can only awaken when you've stood in the presence of deception, loneliness, betrayal, or loss. Your pain was not punishment. It was programming. That heartbreak didn't just hurt, it opened you. It taught your soul how to recognize sincerity without needing to analyze it. It trained your heart to feel truth before your mind could interpret it. That season of loneliness didn't isolate you, it tuned you. It stripped away distractions until you could hear your inner voice with clarity. It taught you how to sit with yourself, face yourself, and belong to yourself. That betrayal didn't break your trust, it sharpened it. It revealed what loyalty is, not by showing you who stayed, but by showing you who couldn't. Pain changed you, but not into something hardened or closed. It changed you into someone who can see, someone who can feel deeply without drowning, someone who can love with wisdom instead of attachment. Your empathy is not softness, it is spiritual intelligence forged in fire. Your intuition is not sensitivity, it is instinct sharpened through survival. Your depth is not heaviness, it is evidence of the places your soul has traveled and returned from whole. The world looks at you and sees strength, but that strength is not muscle, it is memory. Memory of everything you have survived. Memory of every truth pain has carved into your bones. You did not heal by forgetting. You healed by integrating. Your pain became your teacher. Your teacher became your evolution. Your evolution became your power. Chosen one, you have always moved differently, not by calculation but by knowing. While others rely on what they can see, you rely on what you can sense. Your guidance does not come from reaction, it comes from recognition. Your spirit receives information before your mind forms explanation. This is why you've often felt ahead of your environment. You've walked away from people before their intentions became obvious. You've lost interest in situations before they collapsed. You've changed directions moments before the atmosphere around you shifted. Others called it overthinking, but it was spiritual intelligence. Your inner knowing has always been your compass. You didn't need proof to act. You didn't need confirmation to move. You didn't need clarity to release what your spirit had already outgrown. This is why you don't stay stuck. You move before the damage arrives. And while some may think your detours are sudden or dramatic, they are neither. They are precision. When energy shifts, you feel it in your body. When intentions shift, you feel it in your chest. When alignment shifts, you feel it in your spirit. Your awareness is not a reaction to experience, it is a prelude to it. Most people learn through consequences. You learn through perception. Most people recognize truth in hindsight. You recognize truth in advance. This is why certain opportunities could not deceive you. This is why certain people could not manipulate you. This is why certain environments could not hold you. Your path has been guided, not guessed. And now, you are no longer questioning this gift. You trust it. You trust the quiet pull. You trust the shift in your spirit. You trust the instinct that speaks before logic does. Your life is not unfolding by chance, it is unfolding by alignment. And because you move when your spirit moves, you will always be 2 steps ahead of what was meant to break you. Chosen one. The reason some people reacted to you with discomfort, distance, envy, or confusion had nothing to do with your character, it had everything to do with your presence. You didn't have to speak, confront, correct, or expose anyone. Simply by being yourself, you became a mirror. Your authenticity reflected back the truth others were trying to avoid. Your clarity revealed the confusion they were hiding behind confidence. Your growth highlighted the stagnation they were masking with routine. Some people spend their entire lives avoiding self-reflection. They build identities rooted in survival, performance, and approval. They learn how to silence the parts of themselves that ache for evolution. Then you walked in with honesty, depth, awareness, and spiritual alignment, and without trying, you brought their soul face to face with itself. Mirrors don't judge. They simply show. Your presence showed. The dreams they abandoned, the healing they postponed, the emotions they suppressed, the courage they never activated, and not everyone is ready to confront that truth. So instead of growing, some chose resisting. Instead of evolving, they chose projecting. Instead of rising with you, they chose distancing from you. Your growth didn't push them away. Their avoidance pulled them back. Understand this clearly. Their reactions were confessions, not criticisms. They did not dislike you, they disliked what they saw in themselves when standing next to you. But this is also why the right people feel peace around you. Why those who are ready to grow feel safe in your presence. Why souls on the same frequency recognize you instantly. Your purpose is not to convince anyone to face themselves. Your purpose is to be, to continue expanding, to continue awakening, to continue walking in truth. Those who are meant to stay will stay, not because they need your light, but because they are ready to ignite their own. You did not become the mirror to expose others. You became it to reveal who is willing to rise with you. Chosen one. After everything you've walked through, here is the true miracle: you kept your soul intact. You endured storms that could have hardened you. You survived losses that could have closed your heart. You faced betrayal that could have taught you to distrust everyone. You navigated loneliness that could have made you resent connection. And yet, you did not become cold. You did not let the world turn you bitter. You did not allow pain to rewrite your character. You did not surrender your softness just to feel safe. Your compassion survived the fire. Your empathy remained. Your spirit stayed open. Your heart continued to love. Do you understand how rare that is? Many go through hardship and become the very thing that hurt them. But you didn't. You grew without losing yourself. You healed without becoming hardened. You rose without stepping on others to do it. Your strength is not the kind that roars, it radiates. It moves quietly, but undeniably. It is felt before it is seen. And now you stand in a version of yourself that was earned, not inherited, not borrowed, not performed, built. Your story is not one of survival only, it is one of transformation. And the world is about to witness the life that is born when a soul refuses to die in the dark. You did not just make it through, you made it through with your light still on. Chosen one. If this resonated deeply, do not let this be the end of the moment. Let it be the activation. Type "I am ready" in the comments. Not to be seen, but to seal what has awakened in you. Like, share, and subscribe, so this message reaches the souls who are rising just like you. This community is not an audience, it is a spiritual family of awakeners. We rise together. Your next chapter begins now.